What does the science tell us today? From the science. Omicron BA2 subvariant. Wasn't it? I thought it was called Deltacron. Or was that a different one?
No, this is a different one.
This is a different one. Got it. Gotta keep them all straight, man.
The subvariant of a variant.
Got it. Subvariant of a variant. Got it. Will soon dominate in the U.S., but Fauci doesn't expect another surge. Apparently, it spreads 80% faster than earlier Omicron, has more than doubled in the U.S. over the last 2 weeks, and will become the dominant variant. Now, before we continue with this, the one good thing about Omicron was it spread incredibly quick, but it was much, much less lethal. So it basically was what we used to call a developer of a natural immunity. I know I shouldn't put those words together, but it exposed a lot of people to this, which gave a lot of people the necessary antibodies and the necessary resistance to be able to allow us, by and large across the country, to drop mandates and move on with our lives, except for the red states who have been doing it for about 2 years now. But that being said, now...
Well, so this is one of the things that pretty much across the board everybody has agreed on, is that when you have variants that are not as lethal, not as extreme with any disease, and of course make sure that you consult with your doctor, talk to them for your best course of action.
Yes.
What's right for
Always.
you is not necessarily what's right for anyone else.
Not even the science.
But what they've talked about, and this, I remember this going back to the very beginning, is, hey, if we can get past and understand this, as the variants come out, we'll be able to determine if they're going to be more extreme or if they're going to be less extreme, if people can kind of push through certain parts of this. And it's the same thing that we've done with the cold and flu. You look at your flu shots every year, and it's not necessarily the flu shot isn't, from what I understand, and I'm not a doctor.
No, you're not.
It isn't a vaccination against every type of flu that's out there. It is the most prominent variant at the time.
Yep.
So moving forward, what they're going to decide on how that needs to look for any injections.
Any injections you choose to take based on what your doctor has said to you and what is best for you.
So I think that we'll start to see some changes in the approach to this, which we need to move past this. We need to get back to normal.
Well, that's just it. I was under the impression we were. I was under the impression we were until, this dude crawled back out. He couldn't stand it. You notice he completely just disappeared from the news circuit. Suddenly it was Ukraine was everywhere.
Well, he got super scared.
Of course he got super
scared because there are people who are standing up to him now.
Yeah.
And he's put in a position of they're calling him out on all the BS. And I love watching Rand Paul.
Oh yeah, we will get to Rand Paul. Trust me, I love his response too, and it's really going to cover up this whole thing. But let's go ahead and check out what the article says here. So, and of course, it says that the BA2 has more than doubled in prevalence over the past 2 weeks in the U.S. and now represents more than 34% of COVID-19 infections that have undergone genetic sequencing. BA2 has been steadily growing as a proportion of the COOF variants circulating in the U.S. since February 5th, when it represented about 1% of genetically sequenced virus samples. So it has been spreading like crazy. It says data from Walgreens, which conducts testing at pharmacies nationwide, shows BA2 is the dominant value at 51% of all positive COVID cases. And let's see what he has to say about it. Where is he? There it is. Oh, man, I tell you, people, I love doing the Fauci voice, but I don't think my throat's ready to read the entire paragraph, so I'm going to read it normal. I know, I'm disappointed too. The bottom line is, it's tough to do it. We'll likely see an uptick in cases, as we've seen in the European countries, particularly the UK. White House Chief Medical Advisor Fauci told this week. Hopefully we won't see a surge. I don't think we will. I couldn't make it. In the UK, the number of people testing positive for COVID has jumped 16% over the past week, blah, 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 blah. You say that people have turned on him, and that's fair. That's very fair. The guy's been wrong 99% of the time, which we'll get to here in a second. But at the same time, and of course, it's a story for another day, but some documents were forced to be released from, we'll just say, one of the major heads, and represented data that they had been collecting, but they didn't want to let the public know because it involved VAERS reporting. And, well, some of the stuff in there, I can understand why they didn't want to tell everyone about it. like I say, we're going to look into that one more. We could cover their documents extensively, but the thing about VAERS reporting is, even though like there may be 9 pages of reported side effects to getting any form of injection related to a certain koofy virus, at the same time, as from someone who has worked in the medical field, VAERS reporting, you always have to take it with a grain of salt, because anyone is a free reporting thing. Like, anyone can do it. Anyone can go in and be like, oh, I had this done to me and now I feel this, I better report it. And then they are obligated to let the people know what was reported. Now, I'm not covering for anyone. You should look into these documents, and I'm trying to think of a nondescript way to say that Pfizer, you should look into the documents released that just show the information related that they've been collecting. Like I said, you always take it with the grain of salt. You always talk to your doctor, and you always make decisions based on what's best for you. But if you want the full scope of what has been reported, knowing that this can be reported by anyone at any time for any reason, and whether or not it's related is up to, well, supposedly either up to them or up to you, the reader, it is out there. And
well, and I think that most people's issue with this is that they're being told that they can't even see the information and make the decision for themselves.
Well, that's just it. I was just going to say, it's a little suspicious that a judge had to order them to release this. They wanted to put it away for, what was it, like 77 years or something insane?
75.
75, thank you. It was some insane number. They were like,
wanted to release it in 75 years when, at that point, anyone who was involved would be dead.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff right there. It's kind of like things we talk about where I put the tinfoil sombrero on and I say, doesn't that reek of a pattern of something going on? And
well, and if you want a really good analogy for it, watch the Russell Brand video where he talks about, oh, you're going to release it in 75 years. And he talks about going up to buy a car. And he said, can I check out the car? No, you can't check out the car. Why can't I check out the car? Well, you can check out the car in 75 years.
Oh, beautiful. What a deal.
Why is this information not being made available?
Yep.
And you might be able to say, okay, well, the average person won't understand it and they'll misread it. Okay,
That's
well,
fair.
then make it available with someone who can interpret it and not just say, well, you can't see the original data, but you have to trust me.
Yeah. You remember when back in 2016 when WikiLeaks was the big thing in the news cycle, and I believe it was Chris Cuomo, that scumbag, came out and said something like, or was it him or Tapper? I think it was Cuomo. He came out and he's like, don't read these emails. It's illegal to read, but we can read them so we can tell you what to think about them. And everybody was like, what? What? Yeah. It's the same basic mentality of like, this is why, as a First Amendment advocate, censorship doesn't work. You can call it the Streisand effect. You can say whatever you want, but you're going to censor this stuff, and people are going to go, bro, why are you censoring this? And you could have the best reasons ever. You could be like, dude, somebody listed, I don't know, the worst possible virus you can think of, and insert something here, smallpox, no, the Black Death, I don't know, I think those are the same thing. Anyways, I took what the doctor told me to, and I got the Black Plague, I better report it. And they go, oh my god, okay, fine, we have to report it, there it is, it's in there, somebody said they got that. And then you have basically grifters who zoom in on that one word on 9 pages and go, there it is, folks, there it is.
Yes. Well, I mean, I remember getting into an argument with a girl on Facebook, which at this
point made me
realize, and it was someone that I didn't even know in my mom's group.
Mom's group.
I had pulled up studies, and gone over the studies, and then showed the synopsis, and she says, "Well, that's not what that says." And I'm like,
open to interpretation.
It was in black and white. The sentence was right there. I highlighted it. And she said, well, if you read the rest of the study, that's not what that says. And I'm like, okay, first off, I read the entirety of the study, and nowhere in it did it claim anything that she was saying that it said.
Of course.
And that's the thing. They're not even allowing us to have that discourse.
Right.
To have the question of, okay, well, this is the percentage that it claims in this study. You can't even talk about it because you don't know.
It's very interesting because this is unrelated but related, almost like a parallel train that just kind of, as you were talking about this, I'm talking about things we're not allowed to know, but that we have to just march lockstep with. I mean, the reason that this individual went away was because of Ukraine. I mean, you could call it the sentiment or whatever, but that was the news cycle pivot. it was COVID, oh, Ukraine, and it's been Ukraine since, and now it's starting to trickle back in 3 weeks later. But interestingly enough, exactly what you were just describing, this is what's happening. Well, why is that happening? You're not allowed to ask. Why am I not allowed to ask? Oh, you're for the enemy, are you?
Yes.
You're a conspiracy theorist.
Yes, and I think your next article kind of.
Oh yeah, we're up until right now. We got a nice little the first of our 2 responses from Ted Cruz, and I like this. He keeps it simple. So
smart guy.
He says, so Fauci, and this is what I originally saw. So I'm glad that the previous article debunked it, but Fauci originally said if we see a surge in cases, we have to be prepared to here you go, pivot and perhaps reinstitute some of those restrictions. And old Ted Cruz, he says, hell no. For petty tyrants like Fauci, they only have one tool in their toolbox, authoritarian restrictions. Enough is enough. And I would say, Mr. Cruz, I tip of my sport ball hat to you, sir, because 100% agree. The country has had enough of this crap. The only people who are still a part of it, unfortunately, and I say this with the most love in my heart, are in a cult. Anyone who is still out there double, triple masking, doing insane things, or my favorite is double, triple masking while driving alone in their car with all the windows up. Because as you know, the only one you have to fear is yourself.
Well, and here's the thing. If that makes them comfortable, if that's how they are choosing to live their life,
that's fair.
Then I'm all for that.
Although, just stop right there. But we said that a decade ago about individual.
Let's not get into that.
All right.
And I still stand by that fact.
I'm with you, man.
Because you cannot have personal freedom if you are willing to lock down someone else's.
Exactly. It's rules for thee, not for me. Not to mention everything about it. The lockdowns. I'm not going to say anything about any other aspect of it. We're strictly talking about Democrat governor responses. By and large, there were some Republicans, or I'll just go ahead and call them rhinos, but in my mind, they're all Democrats. The point is, they imposed the strictest lockdowns while other states did not. You saw the data come out that those who did not impose all these lockdowns, they're doing fine. In fact, not only is their natural immunity through the roof, but as a state, by and large, group of people, they are over it, whereas the governors responsible for these things,
economically, they're doing better.
Yes. Economically, and I was going to say... like I said, natural immunity, herd immunity wise, like the cases were going down. Well, it's not the cases because they love to tout that the cases are going up, but the deaths.
Yes.
That's the part. The deaths dropped. You notice that immediately because they stopped saying death, started saying cases. And that was the first step towards. So in my opinion, when all these governors, all these leaders, tying it back around what I was saying, were locking down all this stuff on all their citizens, we continuously over and over caught them breaking their own rules. They didn't need masks. They were standing less than 6 feet apart. Blah, 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 blah. Non-stop. We got pictures and pictures and pictures.
Horrible picture of Lori Lightfoot in Chicago.
Oh, God. Don't get me started on Beetlejuice.
What is it, Burning Man that they have in Chicago?
Who knows, where she's out in the crowd and she's like, this is a super spreader event.
She's hanging out with all these people. And it was because she knew that they needed the money from the event.
Oh, of course. Of course. That's what it's all about.
And allow that to happen when you need the money, but then when politically it doesn't serve you.
Rules for thee, not for me. I mean, everybody did it. Like, Newsom, Wolf. I could name everybody.
Well, and Cuomo was caught out and about when he was supposed to be quarantined.
Oh, don't get me started on that guy. But hey, at least with Cuomo, Chris Cuomo, that is. Actually, you know what? Both of them. At least karma finally caught them. Granted, I kind of wish Andrew Cuomo, the karma from killing tens of thousands of seniors, would have caught him.
Yeah.
But I guess Pound Me Too works too. Whatever. That's so insane to me. But anyways, hopping to this next article, which I know we're both going to love. From a Mr. Rand Paul, personal favorite of both of ours.
Love him.
Menace. Anthony Fauci.
Dr. Rand Paul.
Oh, they left it out of the title.
They did.
Fiends.
You noticed that?
Dr. Rand Paul says, the menace, Anthony Fauci, hasn't been right really about anything since the start of the pandemic. Man, Rand Paul.
I mean, we can go back further to his history with
dude,
the HIV
yeah.
stuff,
I was going to say, look into him in the 80s if you really want to go down that rabbit hole. This guy has been doing this grifting game for a long time.
Well, and it's crazy because if you think about it, yes, scientists are not always right, and that's That's the
Well,
process that we use. Is
questioning it is supposed to be the first step.
Exactly. And this particular scientist has not questioned anything. He has stood by exactly what he thinks should be going on, and then had to backtrack.
Oh, over and over. It's a beautiful thing. You know what? I'm actually just going to read this full quote, if you're all right with it, because I was going to highlight it, but I just love it all. So, if you believe in Dr. Fauci, what you should do immediately is, let me go ahead and just make it big enough to make sure it can be read as well on screen. Go ahead and read along with me. If you believe in Dr. Fauci, what you should do immediately is go get stickers and make sure they are on the floor everywhere you go, and a yardstick so you know you are 6 feet away from people, and plexiglass. Carry plexiglass around with you because Dr. Fauci thinks that plexiglass somehow, reflects the virus away from you. None of what he's been for has worked. Not one thing he has advocated other than the vaccine, and I'm not against the vaccine, but the interesting thing is this, and he won't admit this to the public, if you take a sample of blood from 1,000 people anywhere in the United States, and you measure to see if they have antibodies to the virus or antibodies to the vaccine, it's over 95%. That's why we're doing better in this. We developed immunity either from having the disease or from being vaccinated, and that's why we are doing better, in addition to the fact that the virus has mutated to a less virulent or less deadly form. But he won't admit it because he's caught up in putting stickers on the floor, putting masks on your face, putting goggles on you. This guy is a menace, and he hasn't been really right about anything since the start of this. 100% agree, although I will add, it's not just because he believes this and he's still doing it. It's because I think he grew to love the attention. Did you ever watch that special? They did a little special on him where it showed him where he lived and where he worked and the life of Anthony Fauci. Okay, so,
I'm sure that's why everybody comes out there saying, oh, he's served for decades and he's been such a wonderful public figure.
Exactly, but you take a look at our surroundings, and I'm glad I can finally see a little bit of yours. I love that picture in the corner. And you see mine. It's got all... It's your boy. It's got all my favorite stuff, all of our favorite stuff. Do you know what Anthony Fauci has above his desk? Take a look at my, I don't know. How about my Doctor Strange poster here? No, that's not big enough. It'd probably be, no, you can't really see it. Imagine if we took my Doctor Strange poster and my Last Jedi poster, we combined them, we made them big, and it was my self-portrait sitting at my desk. He legit has his self-portrait, and it is huge, right above his desk. So he's sitting there typing and, looking good, big man.
Well, is it behind him or in front of him?
In front of him.
In front of him, so he's staring at himself.
Well, if he's like, in the case of like what we're doing right now, like here's my computer screens, I'm sitting here typing. Instead of you, he's got a giant picture of himself.
That's awesome. That is a type of, what is it, super ego?
That's a level of narcissism that we just shouldn't even touch.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you and I had a portrait of our family in our dining room.
Everybody has portraits of their family in their dining room.
I'm trying to justify any type.
How could you? You know what? It doesn't matter. We're gonna move on. Fauci doesn't.
He's just really in love with himself.
He is. He's been in love with himself for a while here, man. I feel good for him. They look like a happy couple.
I was just gonna say, maybe he's happy like that.
Until they're not on TV for a while. Then all of a sudden, you start to get nervous.
I mean,
why won't they return my phone calls?
Personality, it's like he can't stay away from it.
No.
He can't just run it from the background and say, these are my recommendations.
Well, of course not. Although, interestingly enough, we made good points here alongside Dr. Rand Paul about, basically herd immunity, one way or the other, vaccinated or unvaccinated. You had enough people who had exposure. They had the antibodies. Something else kind of happened a little quietly in the background here. From just the news, the CDC lowers COVID-19 death count by tens.
Well, hold on, real quick before we leave.
Because this is tied into that one.
I know. I just want to say he brought up something that I wanted to see if you had seen it. Taking Fauci's position and splitting it into 3 separate positions.
Oh yeah, I mean this is an unelected person who gets paid, as I recall, more than the president of the United States. He's been in position for years and years and years.
Yes.
Yeah, we should break that one up.
I love the idea of, instead of having one mind, one scientist, one doctor, one person saying these are the recommendations, having it be more of a board opinion.
You mean as it should be?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Have 3 specialists come in.
But then who is going to wear the crown that says the science?
I believe that would be our president, based off of the recommendations from multiple people.
You would put a crown on our president? Well, he'd probably just think he was at Burger King. Oh, where's the ice cream, man? Come on, man.
Well, yes, that's the fault in the logic, isn't it?
A little bit. That's okay, though. I see what you're saying, and I 100% agree.
I mean, when it comes down to it, it's not like Fauci is enacting all of these things. It does go to the president for approval, and then it becomes a mandate.
Of course. Yeah.
So we really are handing it off to the president, but rather than having one little devil on his shoulder, I'd rather have multiple angel and devil.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought you were about to say multiple devils. I was like, I don't know if they would do better in a pack, honestly, but.
I mean, it would be nicer to see more of a varied opinion.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Instead of just one person is the be-all, end-all.
Being able to hear multiple opinions and not silence them. Remember all those doctors that kept coming out saying, hey, we've got alternative treatments, and every single time, oh, look, they've all been removed from every form of public speaking.
And if instead of having one person in that position, you have three people, you're more likely to hear voices of dissent.
Exactly. And dissent is well, up until this point, dissent was a good thing. Dissent, questioning authority used to be a staple of our society, just like questioning results used to be.
It was the reason that the United States was formed, questioning authority.
I thought so. But again, the science.
We always taught, but maybe we were wrong.
Maybe everyone up until this point was wrong. But science also, the scientific method is about asking questions, about questioning the data. Does it really work? We should probably keep checking. And no, it works. Accept it. All right, I'm going to hop on to this next one if you're good.
Yes.
I agree. Rand Paul is the man, and Fauci should just go away. But interestingly enough, the CDC lowered COVID-19 death counts by tens of thousands.
And this is not the first time that they've done this.
No, it's crazy. And listen to why they said they did it. It says the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recently lowered the total COVID-19 death count by more than 72,000. According to the agency, the government's algorithm overcounted COVID-related deaths by 72,277 across 26 states, specifically including 24% of pediatric deaths. On March 15th, the data on the CDC's website was altered due to what, in a footnote, was explained as a, quote, coding logic error. Isn't it amazing? Two things. One, how quietly this was done. This wasn't on any major headlines. No one was blasting them about inflating their numbers or anything like that. If you look at the information coming out of the UK, they're still trying to tell, did they die from or did they die with? Because in the early days, and we can go into the details of, how the government would issue money based on the information that they received about how the death was reported. I'm going to stay away from, ironically enough, I'm going to stay away from that tinfoil hat for now because it's just...
That's not a hill we want to die on.
Exactly, and that's a story for another day. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that...
It's been shady from the beginning because it was, don't ask, follow the rules.
If it's intentional or if it's malicious. Or
just incompetent.
Look
at our government.
Look at all of the issues that we talked about with the funding for unemployment.
Oh, yeah. That was a perfect example.
And I don't believe that was
push it out to anyone.
The majority malicious.
Right.
I think that it was the government scrambling to do something that they've never done before. And private sector can scramble and make things happen because they have to stay afloat on making things happen.
Yep.
When the government scrambles to try to make things happen, they're not held accountable to any standard.
No.
So they screw it up.
That's why socialism doesn't work. If you are not graded based on your results, then why would you put in effort?
Competition is the driving force behind innovation.
Oh, you better be careful. That's hate speech.
I know. But we're not getting paid through the government.
That's fair. That is fair. Results,
and
baby.
Even to this day, the CDC's COVID death count does not establish a clear difference between individuals who died as a result of COVID-19 and those who died with COVID-19. A more specific differentiating standard between the two distinct types of death could lead to a further downward revision of the country's COVID death count.
It just keeps changing.
Well, and just look at it like the way that they have to track things and how much information that they're trying to track,
right,
and to get this information across multiple states, multiple districts, different kind of hospitals, different kind of software. It's a very intricate thing to have to track. So I can see how a coding logic error would be something that happened and something that they would downtick. But you should definitely make that announcement very public to people.
Well,
you should not try to. You should need. Okay, the government needs to stop trying to hide their errors by covering it up and saying the information's not available. Because one of the worst things you can do is make a mistake and then lie about it. Because when you lie about it once, it leads to more lies and more lies and more lies, and it makes you look shady, whether it was intentional or not.
Wow.
It makes you look
do
like
you
a
know
bad
which
person.
administration is in office right now when you're talking about looking shady?